Tony Khan made his weekly appearance on Busted Open Radio Friday morning, and he announced his plans to relaunch Ring of Honor's weekly television show coming out of its Supercard of Honor pay-per-view next month. He said even though Supercard of Honor runs head-to-head with AEW Rampage that night, he is still forging ahead with the show because it was set prior to his purchasing the company, and they had already sold tickets for it, and so he doesn't want to upset those fans. He says he sees it as a transitional show before he relaunches what he hopes will be a new Ring of Honor TV product, which he said would be a weekly series wherever it does air or stream. That's what he said. He gave no further details on where that might be. And he also said there would be a cool way to utilize select members of the AEW roster at the pay-per-view on April 1st. However, he does not plan on AEW and Ring of Honor airing head-to-head on television or wherever on the same night in the future, which, I mean, anybody with a brain could have figured that. I mean, why the hell would he compete against himself? That doesn't make any sense. CM Punk and Bryan Danielson, they're on the AEW roster, and that is where they should be. Although I wouldn't mind them popping in for a cameo here and there in Ring of Honor, given their history, but Punk and Danielson, they belong, where they are at AEW, but I still say Tony Khan should bring Samoa Joe, and Samoa Joe's going to come in. I mean, it's inevitable. It's just a matter of time before Samoa Joe ends up, signing some sort of a deal with Tony Khan, whatever his role ends up being. I think he should bring in Joe and or Cesaro and get them involved in some way on the Ring of Honor side of things, because that brand is going to need a few names. If he plans, now that we know that he is going to relaunch the television show and he is moving full steam ahead as far as running Ring of Honor as its own separate entity. Okay, he's made that very clear. He's going to relaunch the show. He's going to, I assume, start selling tickets to certain shows. Either of those two men would be a great addition, given that they both have a history in Ring of Honor. And as busy as things are right now with the existing AEW roster, I'm not so sure that them just going to AEW is really such a great move right now. They have a lot of people they've signed. They have a lot of people already on the roster. They're going to add Joe and Claudio and Gargano and who knows who else, right? Ember Moon is still out there. How many more people can they add? There's only so many spots to go around on TV. Well, now he's running Ring of Honor. He's got a whole other promotion. And there just so happens to be some of these free agent names out there right now who have a history in Ring of Honor. And if you're going to run a television show and want people to tune in and want to give them a reason to watch the show, you've got to have some names on that show. Joe is a name. Cesaro would be a name. He just had 10 or 11 years of television exposure on WWE television. Built up a lot of goodwill with the audience. People like the guy. He's talented. Either of them would be a great fit, I think, in Ring of Honor. I also think Tony Khan would benefit by bringing somebody else in to help run it either with him or for him. Whether that's somebody like a Gabe Sapolsky or somebody who already works with him behind the scenes in AEW who he thinks might have some booking chops, because I fear that this guy is spreading himself way too thin. Burnout is a very real thing and has done promoters in the past, and that is not what he needs. It never hurts to bring in some help to help run things. And speaking of that Supercard of Honor show, he made it official on Twitter later that afternoon, on Friday, that the Briscoes are going to get their match against FTR on that show. I was just talking about this a few weeks ago. I said April 1st is the perfect time to do that match, and so now it is official. It will be the Briscoes against FTR. That is going to be for the Ring of Honor World Tag Team Championship. The new House of Glory Tag Team Champion Briscoes, by the way. Defending their Ring of Honor titles. Also signed for that show, Jonathan Gresham is going to take on Bandito in a winner-take-all match to determine the undisputed Ring of Honor World Champion. Bandito was the ROH champion, tested positive for COVID, had to be pulled from Final Battle in December. Jonathan Gresham then beat Jay Lethal to become effectively the interim Ring of Honor World Champion, and so now we're going to have the undisputed Ring of Honor champion crowned. And also on that show, Shane Strickland is going to go one-on-one with Alex Zane. Christopher Daniels, who serves as AEW's Vice President of Talent Relations, announced overnight that AEW and DDT Pro in Japan have reached a working agreement to bring DDT wrestlers to the United States for the first time in AEW. DDT is where Kenny Omega first made a name for himself, and where he and Kota Ibushi each had classic matches against the legendary Yoshihiko, the inflatable sex doll. Oh yes, for those unfamiliar with Yoshihiko, the original one was killed during a match by a knee drop that caused its head to basically explode and burst open. There was a second version of Yoshihiko that was modeled after the Great Muta. That version was killed on a Kenny Omega giant swing out of the ring, and it split his head open and caused all the stuffing to fall out. And it was actually during that match that a third incarnation of Yoshihiko debuted, dressed up like the American badass version of The Undertaker, coming out to Kid Rock and everything. And that Yoshihiko was later shot to death by another wrestler. Gives you a little taste of DDT. Maybe we'll get another version of Yoshihiko debuting in AEW, and Jim Cornette's head will spontaneously combust and all the stuffing will come out of his head.